Okay, thank you, everybody. This is a very special opportunity for me, and I'm so delighted to spend time with this incredible community. Over the last many years, I would say, there's been a lot of discussion about bringing me to speak in Australia, which never really happened. So I'm glad, at least spiritually, I could be part of the community tonight as well. Thank you to everyone that made this possible, and thank you all for thinking of me. I'll be glad to answer any questions that you have at the end. So my name is Tamir, and I grew up in Baltimore, Maryland. And I fell in love with the game of basketball at a very young age. And we had a hoop in our backyard. And if we would make the shot, usually the ball would stay on our court. But if we would miss, sometimes it would roll to our neighbor's lawn. And our neighbor's lawn was lower than our lawn. So sometimes if you would miss, the ball would roll down, and I'd have to go into my neighbor's lawn and chase the ball and come back on our court and continue practicing. And one time the ball rolled down to our neighbor's lawn, and instead of just chasing the ball like I usually would, I just stopped and I looked at my hands for a second, and I thought to myself, I said, wouldn't it be amazing if these hands right here could show the world that you could play basketball at the Division I level and at the professional level without playing on Shabbat. That was a goal that I set for myself as a young child. And I decided that I was going to go for it. But I was also very, very blessed that I had a very supportive family and friends and community, and also a coach that lived next to us that began training me at that age as well. And I worked very, very hard with this coach. His name was Coach Katz. And by the time I was 17 years old, I was ranked the 25th best high school basketball player in America, playing for all-boys yeshiva called Talmudical Academy. And I started getting a lot of scholarship offers in the mail. And one day we got a phone call from the University of Maryland. And at the time, they were probably the #1 team in America, maybe one of the greatest teams of all time. And they told my coach that they were interested in coming to watch me play. And thank God I played very well that night, that they offered me a 4-year full athletic scholarship to join their basketball program. And I looked at my coach and I said, Coach, you know, this is an amazing opportunity. I want to take this offer. I'm going to play at the University of Maryland, but I'm only going to play on one condition, that I'm not going to play on Shabbat. And we met with the coaching staff, and somehow the meeting went really, really well, and they said that they would try to accommodate me, and my life changed overnight. I had 700 unique media requests that week to find out who I was and why I wasn't willing to play on Shabbat. And things started to change very quickly for me. I went from being a very private life as a regular Jewish kid that loved basketball to all of a sudden everybody knowing what was going on with my story and with basketball, and the media was absolutely relentless. It was out of control. But quickly I realized I was going to have to try to use this media attention to try to do as much good as possible. And we got a phone call from Sports Illustrated magazine, which is probably the biggest sports magazine in the world. And they said that they were coming to watch me play. And they came to watch me play. And after they watched me play, they said they were going to put a 4-page article about me in Sports Illustrated. And they sent a very, very famous sports photographer to my house. And he's taking pictures of me in the backyard where this whole journey started. And somehow during the photo shoot, I just stopped him and I said, you know, I appreciate the opportunity. I know you take pictures of basketball players all the time, but I'm not a regular basketball player. I'm a Jewish basketball player, and I'd like to represent the Jewish people in Israel through this media attention. I know that millions of people are going to see this article. It's not just about me. There's a bigger journey here. So he said, what do you have in mind? So I said, please come to my room. And even though it was the afternoon, I took out my tefillin and I put them back on, and I took out my siddur and I said, well, this is how I pray every day. And took a picture, and that was the picture that, one of the pictures that made it into Sports Illustrated. So I was nicknamed the Jewish Michael Jordan, now featured in Sports Illustrated, 4 pages, but one of the main pictures had me with my tefillin on. And my life was really great up until that point. You know, I'm in a great school and a great environment. I'm going to play at Maryland. I was just in Sports Illustrated. But 2 huge challenges came my way at the end of 11th grade. I was 17 years old. The first big challenge at the end of 11th grade that happened to me was the school that I went to asked me to transfer for my last year of high school for 12th grade because the media was such a distraction. I'd get to school in the morning and there'll be cameras trying to get into our classrooms, and our gym could only fit 200 people, and there was thousands of people trying to come into the gym to watch us play. And they just felt like they couldn't accommodate the balance with the Judaism and the basketball. They wanted me to find a school that could better accommodate my basketball journey. The second big challenge that happened to me towards the end of 11th grade was I had been invited to play at the University of Maryland to start training with my future college teammates in the summertime. And one day after the practice, the coaches said that they'd like to speak with me. They called me into their office and they said, Samir, if you want to stay, you could be part of this program. But based on how we see things moving forward and how we project you, we've decided that you're going to have to start to play on Shabbat. And I said, Coach, I love this program. I love this team. I grew up watching you play. But for Jewish people, Shabbat's more important than basketball. And I gave them back probably the most sought after scholarship in the country because I did not want to play on Shabbat. And they actually went on to win the national championship. I would have been part of that team. So going into my senior year of high school, I now had no school to finish high school, and I had given my scholarship back to the University of Maryland because I didn't want to play on Shabbat. And I felt like I made the right decision. I knew that Shabbat was a timeless blessing, and that was the energy that I wanted to be tapped into. So first, where was I going to graduate high school? I couldn't find a school that would accommodate me until one day I got a phone call from a Christian priest. And the Christian priest said, Samir, we read about you in the paper. I'm the principal of a predominantly African-American Christian school, only an hour away from Baltimore where I grew up. And we'd love to invite you to come to our school for your senior year of high school. You could graduate here. And I said, thank you for the opportunity, but what am I going to do in a Christian school? I'm Jewish. And he said, we have a very good team. We're very well accustomed to dealing with the media. Our gym seats thousands of players. You won't have that issue anymore. And because we're Seventh-day Adventist Christians, we don't play basketball on Shabbat either. So most Christians celebrate their Shabbat on Sunday. Seventh-day Adventists celebrate Shabbat on Yom Shabbat like us. So sounded like a good idea, and I went for it. I transferred from All Boys Yeshiva, and I transferred to the Christian school. And at first, I couldn't understand, why did Hashem send me to the Christian school? It was such a hard transition for me. I'm going every day. I'm the only Jewish kid in the entire school. I'm wearing my kippah. I have my tzitzit. I have my kosher food. I can remember our first home game. My coach from the Jewish school came to watch me play, and when he walked into the gym, I started crying. I couldn't believe that I wasn't graduating from the Talmudical Academy. But going to the Christian school ended up being a very big blessing for me because I grew academically, athletically, socially. I became a lot stronger, and I had a very good season there. And at the end of the season, I got invited to play in a very prestigious AllStar game called the Capital Classic AllStar Game, which is very famous for hosting some of the best players of all time when they were seniors in high school. So Michael Jordan played, Magic Johnson played, Patrick Ewing, Grant Hill, some of the greatest players of all time got invited to play in that game. And I also got invited to play in that game after playing well at the Christian school. And I could just remember the practices leading up to the game. It was so intense. Here I am playing with the top players in all of America. And finally the big game comes. And when the game was about, the day of the game happened, we got to practice in the morning, one last practice before the big game. So while we were coming on the court, the NBA stars were coming off the court. It was their practice time before us, and they were coming off the court, and we were coming on the court. And as I was coming on the court, one of the most famous NBA players at the time, he was an all-star, his name was Rod Strickland, comes over to me and he says, hey, are you the Jewish kid that I read about in the paper? I said, maybe. Why? Meanwhile, I'm like, I can't even talk because I'm so intrigued by one of my, players that I so much looked up to. And now he's talking to me, and he said that he read about me in the paper. And I said, yeah, it's probably me. What's going on? He said, good, because I bought a ticket. I'm coming back to watch you play tonight. So that made me feel very nervous. And I came back that night, and the game was about to start. There was thousands of people there, and I noticed that Rod Strickland was there. He showed up. He was at half court, and I saw my high school coach. I was feeling so nervous before the game. I said, Coach, do you have any last-minute tips? He said, first of all, you have to go show Hakarat Tov. You have to go say thank you to Rod Strickland for coming. And number two is, he said, don't take any extra dribbles because the players are so fast, they're going to steal the ball away from you. So I went over to Rod Strickland. I said, thank you for coming. It was very meaningful. And I had in my mind that I wasn't going to take any extra dribbles. I was going to be focused on passing. And that was the greatest advice my coach could have given me, because I ended up having a great game and tying the assist record for most assists. And we ended up winning the game, and I won the most valuable player of that game. And I made history. And looking back, I say that's why Hashem, one of the main reasons Hashem sent me to the Christian school, because ultimately I was able to play in that prestigious game with my kippah on and win the most valuable player of that game. But where was I going to play in college? I had given my scholarship back to Maryland. And I got a phone call one day from Towson University. It's a Division I school in Baltimore. And the coach says, I'm not Jewish. Nobody on the team is Jewish. But the guys on the team read about you in the paper, and they respect so much that you didn't play on Shabbat. Well, they know you could have played for the University of Maryland, one of the best teams in the world, but you didn't want to play on Shabbat. Can we learn more about your religion? Perhaps we could help you out. So we invited the coaching staff over our house. And my father, of blessed memory, I'll never forget, comes out of the kitchen with the Rosh Hashanah calendar. Every year in the community, they give the new Rosh Hashanah calendar with all the times and dates of the Shabbat and Chagim. And my father comes out with the calendar. He starts explaining to the coaches who aren't Jewish the whole Jewish calendar in 10 minutes. Rosh Hashanah, can't play. The coach marks down on his calendar, I can't play. Yom Kippur, can't play. Sukkot, can't play. Goes over all the times and dates. And we said, Coach, do you think you could change the entire schedule, basically, for one incoming Jewish athlete that also wants to wear his kippah when he plays? And the coach put together a proposal, and he spoke to the head of our conference, and they managed to change the schedule. And I became the first person, thank God, and thank the team and everybody involved, because they changed the schedule for me, that I was able to play Division I basketball on a full scholarship without having to play on Shabbat or any holidays. This was supposed to be impossible, and here I am living out my dream. So I got on campus, and I was very thankful, and I met my roommate, who was actually a Muslim basketball player. His name was Muhammad Fafana. And we moved in, and everything was great. The first month of training was very intense. But my first holiday on campus that I ever had to celebrate was Chag Sukkot. And Muhammad and I, we lived on the 15th floor in the dorm room, and I had kosher food. I had everything ready for the holiday, but there was only one thing I forgot. There was a sukkah, but there was no eruv, which meant we can't carry. I couldn't carry my food on Friday night from the dorm room into the sukkah to eat in the sukkah. And I'll never forget, I was looking out the window, and I was kind of upset at myself. I was like, I had everything ready. I tried so hard. It's going to be my first time celebrating here on campus. And I forgot that there was no eruv. I really should have brought the food in before the beginning of Shabbat. Finally, Muhammad comes over to me. He sees me looking out the window, and he says, Tamir, why do you look so distraught? What's wrong? And I showed him, because we were such a high floor, where the sukkah was. It was on the upper side of campus. And I explained to him, I said, Muhammad, I'm very sorry, but I'm really supposed to eat in that little tent tonight, but I can't carry the food because there's no eruv. I'm explaining this to a Muslim basketball player. And Muhammad, without thinking twice, says, you know what? Don't worry about it. I'm going to carry your food for you. And he took my tray with my kiddush cup and my challah, and he walked all the way across campus. We were freshmen. And we walked into the sukkah. I was the only person there out of 17,000 students. And I invited Muhammad to eat in the sukkah. But that was the moment where I realized that I did get to the right place, and I was going to be surrounded by the right people. And it made me feel really good. And the season finally starts. And the third game of the season, we're on the road. We're in Philadelphia. And late at night, we're in a hotel, and I hear a knock on the door. And I look through the little hole of the door, and I see that it's the head coach. So I say to Muhammad, we're nervous, we're freshmen. Why is the coach coming to our room? And I said to Muhammad, you know what, I'll answer the door. Just stay in bed, I'll answer the door. And I open the door, and the coach says, Tamir, I want you to step into the hallway. So I step into the hallway, and I'm feeling nervous. I'm a freshman. I'm only 18 years old. And he says, I want you to be ready to play tomorrow. I say, okay, I always try to be ready to play. Why? He says, because we're playing against Villanova University, one of the best teams in the world. The game is on ESPN. Who knows how many millions of people are going to be watching it. And he says, Tamir, you're starting. You're opening up in the game as one of the top 5 players. And my heart dropped. I was so nervous. I said, okay, coach. And I closed the door and I come back in the room and Mohammed says, what was all that about? I said, Mohammed, you won't believe it. We're playing against Villanova tomorrow. The game's on ESPN. The coach just said that I'm starting and I don't even know how to play basketball. I'm so nervous because like my whole life I'm watching this team on TV. And all of a sudden now it's my turn to play against them. Is this like real? Am I really good enough? Like I just, it made me feel, I was so nervous. I couldn't sleep the whole night. And the next day, we got to this famous arena to play against Villanova, but the players get there before the fans to warm up. So we're there early. There's nobody really in the stands. And I can't feel the ball in warm-ups. I can't feel confident. I'm so nervous. And I was matched up against a senior who was the oldest player on their team, and I'm the youngest, and he was 4 years older than me, and how am I going to do this? Well, Hashem sent me a little blessing, a big blessing. Before the game was about to start, none of the fans were really there until I looked up and I saw that there was a Jewish lady in the stands, a Jewish lady, and next to her son, he was wearing a kippah in Philadelphia. And I just locked eyes with the boy, with the young Jewish boy, and while I was looking at him, I stopped shooting. I wasn't warming up anymore. I noticed that this young Jewish boy took out a big poster board that he brought from his house. He took it out of his bag. And when he saw me looking at him, he took out a marker and he started writing in Hebrew letters, Bruchim Habayim leTamir Goodman. He wrote it in Hebrew. Welcome to Tamir Goodman. And I thought to myself, wow, who ever saw Hebrew letters at Villanova, this famous gym? I can't believe my eyes. But when I saw the Hebrew letters, it made me feel welcome. It made me feel at home. I wasn't nervous anymore. I didn't feel what I was feeling up until that point, just because I saw the Hebrew letters. And I ended up having a really good game. And the coach came over to me and he says, you know, Tamir, I just want to let you know you're going to be starting the rest of the year after what happened in the game today. So people say, how is it possible? How did you start as a freshman in college basketball when you're only 18 years old? And I said, it's only because of the Hebrew letters. The miracle that Hashem sent me, they made me feel at home. And the season kept going and school was going well and my teammates were really great. And we were playing against Boston one night and there's a loose ball on the floor. In basketball, when there's a loose ball, that means nobody has possession of the ball. The ball is just rolling. And you can't let the ball just roll because that ball is your life. You know, there's a saying, ball is life, right? So I dive headfirst on the ball to get possession of the ball. But somebody from another team, he also dove on the ball. And when he tried to get the ball, he slammed my head into the floor of the arena. I banged my head really hard. They picked me up and they took me off the court to the team doctor. He was fixing the cut over my eye. But while the doctor was fixing the cut over my eye, there's still a standing ovation in the arena. Like something amazing happened. Like everyone's clapping and smiling. And I'm like, what is so funny that the doctor's fixing the cut over my eye, that there's such a big ovation, like someone just hit an amazing shot. So a couple of days later, I watched the game tape to see what happened. And I noticed something very special happened. When I dove on the ball at half court, because I hit my head so hard, I didn't realize it, but my kippah got knocked off. And my kippah was still on the court while they took me off the court. And my teammates never saw me without a kippah. It was the first time that they saw me without a kippah. And one of my teammates, his name was Sam Sutton, he's not Jewish, ran out to half court in front of thousands of people, and he picked up my kippah where I fell. And he came all the way over to the doctor off the court, and he slammed my kippah back on my head in front of thousands of people, and he continued playing. And that's why everybody gave a standing ovation. They couldn't believe how much Sam went out of his way to help me with my kippah. And that was a very, very special moment for me. But I want to say probably the most special moment that happened to me throughout my career in college as a college basketball player happened just before what we call in America March Madness, the biggest college basketball tournament in the world. It's the goal of every college basketball team to make this tournament. And the way that you make it is you have to win your conference championship and you advance. So we're now at our conference semifinals, which is the biggest game of my life. But it came out on a Friday night, and my coach couldn't change the schedule for me. And the way that the tournament works is if you win, you advance. If you lose, the season's over. So I made an announcement to my coach, and I said, Coach, even though this is the biggest game of my life, I'm really sorry, I can't play. And it was featured in almost every newspaper in America that I wasn't going to play that night. Associated Press, USA Today, everywhere. And I did a little bit of research, and I found out that there was actually a hotel right across the street from the arena. And my team, they weren't staying at that hotel. They were staying at a bigger hotel that was 20 minutes away, drive on a bus. I called up my coach and I said, Coach, I know this is unprecedented. Before such a big game to ask something like this, it's ridiculous actually. But I have a question. Is there any way you could give me special permission to book a hotel room to the arena instead of staying with the team 20 minutes away? That way on Friday night, if the team wins, I could see our fans happy. I don't have to turn on the TV. I'm right across the street. And I could play on Saturday night, the championship game, because the championship game was 20 minutes, started 20 minutes before Shabbat ended. So I'd be able to play the second half from halftime on. If our fans look parking lot, then I know that we lost and the season's over. Somehow I'll get back to Maryland. Can you just give me permission to stay in this hotel? And if we win, I'll play half the game on Motzei Shabbat. If we lose, I'll get a ride back to Maryland somehow after Shabbat's over. And my coach said, yes, book the hotel. You could do it. So then I called up my father of blessed memory and I told him what happened. It came out, my coach changed his schedule. The coach gave me permission. I could book a hotel that's right across the street, and I'm going to be there for Shabbos. So my father says to me, you know what? I'm very tired of hearing about your lonely Shabboses all over the world. I'm going to close my office down, and I'm going to meet you out there. We're going to have Shabbos together. So when my father told me that, I was so excited. Friday afternoon, I'm waiting, and just before Shabbat, my father pulls up. He got there in time, and he brought all this kosher food, and we go up to the hotel room. And we daven, and after we daven, we were making kiddush, just about to make kiddush, and we hear a knock on the door. And I heard a knock on the door. I thought to myself, and I told my father, I said, you know what? Maybe there's another Jewish person. Somebody saw us in this hotel. They want to spend Shabbat with us. It'll be amazing. We'll invite them over for kiddush, and we'll have the meal together. And when I went to open up the door, I was completely shocked to see it wasn't another Jewish person looking to spend Shabbat. It was actually my entire team. They stopped the team bus on their way back to their hotel 20 minutes away, and they found my hotel, and they found my room, and they said, Tamir, we just want to let you know that we just won the biggest game of our life. We have to go over the scouting report because we're playing in the championship tomorrow night. We're starving, we need to eat properly, replenish our body, and get rest for the big game. But before all that, we had to let you know that we actually won the game for you. We won the game for Shabbat. We respect so much that you didn't play in the biggest game of your life. This game is for you. And that was the greatest sports moment of my life because I was a freshman. I was the youngest guy on the team. I was so different than everybody else. I dressed differently. I wore my kippah, I ate differently, and yet they went so much out of their way to help me be a better Jewish athlete. And after I played in college and I won the Coaches Award, I got a very amazing phone call from Coach David Blatt, who was the first Israeli to ever coach in the NBA. Last year, he coached LeBron James and Cleveland Cavaliers. Last year, he was a part of the staff of the New York Knicks. But before he went to the NBA, he was coaching in Israel. And he said, Tamir, we heard about you. What do you think about coming over to play professionally in Israel? And I said, Coach, that would be more than a dream come true for me. I love Israel so much, and I'd love to come over to Israel. So he brought me over to Israel. I played here in Israel professionally for 7 years. I served in the IDF. I was awarded Chayal Mitzdayan in my training for Outstanding Soldier Award, specializing in Nagbashim, Armor Personnel Carrier Technician. I met my wife here in Israel. Thank God now we have 5 kids. And I played, like I said, 7 years. And eventually I hurt my knee to a point that I couldn't play anymore. And I was forced to retire. And once I retired, I invented a training aid called Zone 190, which is now being used in the NBA. I've been on the staff of Hapoel Jerusalem, which is a professional team in Jerusalem for the last 7 years. And I also run a lot of camps and clinics in Israel and speaking engagements, and I do a lot of product development for Israeli startups, tech startups, sports tech startups, and that's how I got to do a lot of work with Masa. And I got to work with a lot of groups coming over from Australia because I do a lot of clinics with them. They come over to the games in Uphold Jerusalem. I speak to them before the game. I take them around the arena. I've been able to do a lot of workshops with them, connecting Israel and sport, and work with the youth villages as well. We do a lot of after school. You mentioned underprivileged kids. We do a lot of basketball programming for underprivileged kids in Israel, kids that are in residential homes, asylum seekers. There's 5,000 kids now in Israel that have walked here from Sudan, that have walked to Israel to find a better life, and we've launched 2 basketball programs for them as well. So looking back at the kid, which was me, looking at my hands as a young child, trying to do something impossible, play at the highest levels without playing on Shabbat or on Jewish holidays, that seemed as impossible. But I'm so thankful that I got to live out my dream on the court and continue to do so through the spiritual side of basketball, because I can't physically play anymore, and all the initiatives that I'm involved in. And I'm so glad to hear that the strong connection your community has to Israel, and the things that you're doing here as well. And I'm glad that I'm able to meet with the groups when they come over and get involved with them, and hopefully continue to do so. So that's my message in short, my life mission in short. But I'd love to answer any questions you have and get to know you guys as well. Thank you very much. If you have any questions.
So thank you very much, Tamir. That was wonderful. And I'm just going to ask people. I have obviously a number of questions that I'll bring to you myself. But certainly, if anybody has any questions, please post it in the chat box, and we will we'll address them as we go along. So, firstly, Tamir, again, a very inspiring story, and once again, thank you to the YoungUIA for co-sponsoring tonight to have the ability to hear your story in person. Some people have sent me some questions privately, so just a couple of interesting things, more from a technical basketball side, or basketball questions. What does it look like in terms of training at that level? What would a typical week of training look like? How fit do you have to be? What's the rigor on that?
I'll tell you, I'll sum it up. When I retired, a kid came over to me and he said, "Hey, Tamir, you want to go shoot around?" That's kind of like the common saying in basketball, "Do you want to go shoot around?" And when he said that, after I retired, it hit me for the first time in my life. I said, "Oh my gosh, I don't know how to shoot around." I never casually shot a basketball. Every single time I was on the court to get better. And that's the intensity that it takes. You need to get better every single day. You need to rest. You need to take care of your body. You need to eat the right things. You need to be mentally and physically at the absolute best you can be every single second. And you need to put yourself in the best situations to succeed, whether it's studying tape, film, watching what's going on, learning the game, strategy, mental toughness. You have to be so resilient, confidence, believing in yourself, believing in your teammates. All of this, it's all one. Basketball is not just a physical game. It's mental, spiritual, it's a body, it's everything. And that's why I always felt like I had an advantage, because I had the Torah, because I felt like the Torah was my blueprint. It was, I always felt like Hashem was my coach, because all these lessons were within the Torah, and I grew up with them, and it allowed me to never be satisfied, because I felt like I was playing for something bigger than myself. I always wanted to continue to move forward and try to represent the Jewish people. And if I messed up, which I did a million times, I couldn't get too down, because this isn't just about me. There's a bigger mission. I got to pick myself back up, and I got to go and come back stronger than ever. So I always felt like, because I had the Torah, I had these lessons. It really helped me as a basketball player, and the things that the coaches are looking for, this type of level of training intensity, I grew up with, because I had the teachings of Judaism. So it really helped me in basketball.
Wow, amazing. So a lot of people obviously were very, inspired to hear the way you were treated by your teammates, by your coaches. They were really sort of just so, I guess, inspired by your commitment to your faith. People are wondering, were there any anti-Semitic incidents that maybe did come to the forefront at any point through your career?
Yes, there was a lot of anti-Semitic incidents that happened to me throughout my journey. One story that I'll share, I think, kind of sums it up, though, is we went to play when I was in college in an area that definitely isn't known for Jewish people being there. And when we got off the plane, one of my teammates came over to me and he said, there's a Jewish person inside the airport. And I thought he was joking because it wasn't a Jewish area at all. And as it was, I was feeling kind of lonely. But he came back and he came back, and eventually I said, okay, let me see who's in the airport. I was sitting on my cooler of kosher food while the guys were getting all their gear off the plane and getting ready to go to the hotel. And I went into the hotel, and he was right. There was a rabbi there. I couldn't believe it. And I was so shocked to see he was a Chabad rabbi. And I haven't even seen a Jewish person in a week, you know? So I jumped on this rabbi, I gave him a huge hug. And he said, I just landed from New York. He had a long kafata on. He opened up his jacket, and inside his pocket, he had a kosher sandwich. The rabbi gave me a kosher sandwich, and he said, Bracha v'atzlacha. And I turned around, he was gone. I was like, Eliyahu Hanavi, but I really needed that hug, because when we got to the game, one of the biggest arenas in all of college basketball, thousands and thousands of people, they started singing a chant about my kippah. Where did number 22 get his hat from? And they started saying, the rabbi, thousands of people singing this about my kippah. And I didn't say anything to them, and I didn't say anything to the referee. I just tried to keep on playing. When the game was over, the coach was like, go take a shower, put on your travel suit, we're going back. So I took a shower, put on my travel suit, and as I was leaving the arena to get back on the bus, these guys that were making fun of me the whole game, the fans, they were standing in front of the bus. They were standing in front of my team bus. Even though they were supporting the other team, for some reason, they came to our bus. So I was feeling a little bit nervous. I didn't want to start anything. I just said, you know what, I'm gonna just run on the bus and get this over with. But as I tried to run on the bus, they blocked the door. They blocked the door of my bus, and I couldn't get on the bus. So now I was really nervous for a second. And I said to the guy, I said, what's going on? The leader, I recognized him from the game, that was getting everyone to chant and scream about my kippah. He was standing right in front of me, and everybody else was behind him. He said, you know what? I said, what? He said, on behalf of all of us here, we just want to congratulate you, because even though we were laughing at your hat the whole night, you never took it off your head. Congratulations. And they just wanted to shake my hand. And they shook my hand, and I got back on the bus, and I left, and I said, wow, we lost the game tonight, but hopefully we won the game for the Jewish people, because if a Jewish person ever wants to play their game with their kippah, hopefully the fans won't do that to the Jewish player. So why do I say that sums it up? Because there was a lot of anti-Semitism, but at the end of the day, I found that if you're a proud Jew and we try our best and we have good intentions and we try to be respectful, usually, at least what I've experienced in my career, is even the people that were mocking you will come to respect you and want to shake your hand at the end of the day.
That's incredible. I don't know how much you still sort of follow basketball in America or keep in touch with your, college, or follow the college football, America basketball and all that. But do you feel that, do you ever hear from any Jewish players? Are there any Jewish players currently sort of that are religious or even just, proudly Jewish?
Yeah, there's been a lot of players. There's a lot of Jewish identity. There's a lot of, I think we're living in a really, really amazing time. At Yeshiva University, had an incredible season last year, which got cut short because of the situation, but they really made history, and I'm so proud of them. A lot of gap year students I train in Israel before they go back to play in college. So I've trained many, many, many Jewish college players that are back there now, and that spent a year in Israel or Jerusalem. So I feel like not only am I watching college basketball, but I'm almost like watching my own kids sometimes, because I spend so many hours with them, training them in the gym, giving them my heart, giving them what I've learned from the game, and hopefully trying to help them get ready for college basketball. So when they play in college, I like to follow them and see, how they're doing, because I care about their well-being and their performance on the court.
In terms of Israel and basketball in Israel, what's your sort of comparison if you take the highest level of basketball in Israel and compare it to the highest level of basketball in America? What sort of
the situation here in Israel is unbelievable right now. We have an Israeli player that's projected to be picked right now in the top 5 for the NBA draft, Deni Avdia, and then we have another player named Yamadar that is also projected to make it to the NBA right now. So from this tiny country right now, in this current draft, we have 2 Israeli players. I mean, it's fascinating. In addition to that, the Israeli League has, one of the greatest NBA players of all time, Amari Stoudemire, has been playing here the last 4 seasons. The rate of players that go to the NBA or come from the NBA to Israel is fascinating for such a small country. So it's really moving quickly here, and I'm glad that I get to witness it, and be a part of it a little bit.
Yeah, it'll be very exciting if they do get picked.
Yeah, I think it'll be incredible. First Omri Caspi made it to the NBA, then Gal Mekel made it to the NBA, David Blatt made it to the NBA. So now we're seeing the fruits of all that. It's almost like envisioning that we can do it. You can do it, and once one person does it, it just gives people the positive notion that why can't we? Not only why can't we, if this is who we are, we got to make it happen. And it's really cool that that's happening.
Someone sent me an interesting question. And maybe this could also be relevant to sort of the level in Israel. But how does, to give people a sense of what it means to play at the level that you reached, even, how many are trying to get into that? How many players would you say are trying to get to that level?
Oh, I don't know the exact figures, but I think it's something like this. There's millions of people that play basketball in America, and I could be wrong, but I think there's only 4,000 Division I scholarships a year for men's and women's basketball in America. So
Wow.
it's like you got to be really dedicated to the game to get a Division I scholarship, and the amount of players that could go on from Division I to get a professional contract after that, it's very, very, very small number. So I am so thankful to Hashem that I got to live out my dream on the court and continue to try to do good through the game of basketball. And I know that I was very, 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 very blessed.
Someone's asked, did anybody from your college team go on to play in the NBA? Anyone that you know?
He got there after me. His name is Gary Neal. And he ended up having a great, great, fantastic NBA career with the San Antonio Spurs. But I think he got there the year after me.
Fascinating. Another question, again, looking sort of at the Jewish side of things, but if you had to go now and sort of when you talk to groups, are you usually talking to Jewish groups, or are you sometimes talking to sort of clubs and sporting organizations that maybe want to understand the Jewish way?
Yeah, I speak all over in many different capacities. I'm very heavily involved, like I told you, in the sports tech world. Many NBA teams have bought my product, so I'm in that area a lot, and speaking to NBA teams and speaking at basketball conferences, and it's a great honor for me to be able to do and train, some of the greatest basketball minds in the world with my kippah on. I also do a lot of work with the Christian community that comes over to Israel because I graduated from a Christian school. And I also speak to a lot of Jewish organizations, as you know, because I do a lot of work with Australian groups and students that come over as well. So I really speak to all different people, and it's my pleasure. I feel like basketball has allowed me to meet a lot of different people from a lot of different backgrounds, and to teach them what Jesus teaches us, which is we're all Hashem's children. Everybody has a piece of godliness in them, and that's how we should look at every person.
Beautiful. I think it's incredible to hear about how, when we're proud of what we stand for. Like you said, even though they, like in that story you mentioned, when they were sort of making fun of your kippah and they came to shake your hand, I think that was really beautiful to hear. Someone was asking an interesting one. You've got the title, the Jewish Jordan. How did that title make you feel when it first was announced, and do you like the title?
I've never been comfortable with the Jewish Jordan nickname, but a lot of good has come out from that nickname. And I think that's why Hashem gave it to me, or that's why I have it. In other words, it's not my personality. It much be really private or quiet, but I realized even back then that it could do a lot of good for other people, inspire people that otherwise would feel like they're going through an impossible journey, or most recently, like almost every day something happens where I could do some type of chesed through basketball. And, for example, we have a kid in our community now that's battling cancer, and he's so isolated now because of the corona, and he wanted to have basketball players send him video messages because he's all alone and he loves basketball. And I know that if I could call people up, big basketball people, and say, hey, it's from the Jewish Jordan, they'll be, oh, the Jewish Jordan. It helps move forward for chesed, mostly is what I've seen in my life, because people will remember that nickname, and and it allows me to help people in certain ways. So I think, like, even though I don't really like it, I've kind of understood in an increasing manner from year to year to try to use it as a tool to help other people. I think that's where it's been really special to see.
That's just beautiful, Tamir. I think that's using the strengths Hashem's given you to try and make other people's lives better. Can you explain this technology you were saying? Somebody's asked, what does it mean, this technology you've sold to the NBA?
It's called Zone 190. It's a multi-angle pitchback. So when a player is in the gym by themselves, it'll get them the ball as if there's 12, 13 coaches with them. So instead of just practicing by yourself, it gets you the ball at 190 degrees. You have 190 degrees to work with. So it passes you the ball from all the angles. So even if you're in the gym by yourself, you could practice catching and scoring from all the angles, even if you're just by yourself. Right now, I'm in the office in Israel called Player Maker. You guys can see this. This Israeli tech company has invented these sensors, and it's incredible technology that you put in a strap, these straps right here in your shoe, and it's for soccer. And it tells your coach every single thing, statistic you could ever imagine from your shoe. How hard you kick the ball, how fast you kick the ball, how fast you're running, which foot is stronger, your right foot or your left foot, how many touches you got in the game, if they're passing you the ball, you're not passing you the ball, where you're most effective. So I'm here right now working as a consultant for them, as well as other Israeli startups, sports tech startups. So it's fascinating, the stuff that's coming out of Israel. It's helping the medical world, it's helping the tech world. And I'm just glad that, I'm trying to able to do a little bit of my part through the sports and bettering athletes' chances of reaching their potential, and on and off the court, really. So I do this, and I'm blessed. I feel like so many things I went through in my journey have allowed me to help the next generation of players, and that makes me really happy.
Again, another basketball question's come through. Obviously, some basketball fans on the.
I could always talk basketball, yeah.
Obviously being at the level you played, and then you obviously mentioned, some of the senior NBA players. In your mind, if you could give some type of analogy, like if you could take a player like a Michael Jordan, for example, and where do these guys sit in your mind, like when you think about their skills and their abilities?
Yeah, well, listen, I grew up in that generation watching Michael Jordan and watching the players of the 90s and the early 2000s, but I have to say, in my opinion, that the modern players like Steph Curry and all the players that are playing in the playoffs right now, Damian Lillard and things like that, they've really taken that base level and just taken it to a whole nother level. Things that they're doing now, it's almost unbelievable for me to see and witness and say, these are things that we would have never even tried. And now they're doing it on a day-to-day basis in a game. And it's fascinating. And I think that the basketball level is at a very, very impressive level. And you guys could see that in Australia as well. I mean, the league has really grown there as well. There's a lot of interest, a lot of good players. Melo's probably going to get drafted really high. And the game's really grown internationally. And I'm fascinated. And I love seeing how well the younger generation has developed.
Some personal questions. How tall are you and what's your shoe size?
I'm 6'3.5". My shoe size is 10.5.
Okay. Is that considered just an average basketball player height?
For my position, it was really good, because 6'3.5" is a really good height for a point guard.
How important, someone's asking, are sponsorships in the sporting world and in the college level? Do you get sponsored at that level or
yeah,
not?
we were sponsored. Yeah, we were sponsored. It was nice to, get a lot of cool free Nike clothes. And sponsorships in sports. Listen, the reason probably most likely the NBA is able to play in that bubble right now without fans is because of sponsorships, because of TV, because of commercials. It saved the league right now because fans can't come and watch the game. So you can see how important sponsorships are, because this is the greatest example ever. There's nobody at the games, and the NBA is functioning very well right now, even in a financial standpoint, because of sponsorships and things like that. So it's a very big part of the game.
Someone's asking again another interesting sporting question, but maybe if you talk about your level at the the senior college level, and also maybe at NBA, how many would you say that how many shots would these people be shooting through their lives, even just in practice? Would it be thousands of?
Oh, yeah, it's hard to imagine. It's not only how many, it's how you shoot. In other words, look, on average, let's say we shoot 500 shots an hour or 500 shots a session. Well, it's not that hard to shoot 500 shots. It's hard to shoot 500 shots what we call game speed, like game speed shots. Like how fast are you running? How high are you jumping? What's the predicament? Anyone could just go out there and shoot, but that's not how you get better. The only way to get better is maximizing each and every shot. We say every shot counts, every shot matters. You know, you got to sprint, come off, V-cut, shoot, 1-2 dribble, shoot, 1-2, like everything has to be completely focused on what we call game speed, because you play as you practice. You practice really well, then you're going to play in the games when everyone's there and you won't feel the pressure because you have muscle memory. Your body knows how to do it. The only way to do that is through repetition. And you got to do the repetition the right way, at the right speed, with the right mindset. Otherwise, you're not going to put yourself in a situation to be successful when game time comes. So practice is more important than games.
Wow. And just based on something you said, you know, the players, the current NBA players you're saying are just another level. What do you consider that? Is that just the sports science and the equipment? Like, what do you write it off?
Yeah, the technology. We've learned how to take care of our body better, how to recover better from injuries. The training is unbelievable. The muscles that we're working on, we didn't really work on when we were younger. Everything, between the training, the tech, and the nutrition, and what we know about the body, what we know about the mind. There's such a great emphasis now on like mental health training. You know, players are learning how to bounce back from bad games. Players are learning how to redirect their minds after a missed shot. You know, or like a game where they missed the game-winning shot. Let's say they missed it. In the old days, like we would just have to. We didn't know how to react from something like that. Nowadays, there's coaching. There's so much more out there to, like I say, put yourself in a situation to succeed.
Amazing. Sam, I know you've been quiet, but if you wanted to, you feel free to jump in. Sam is with the YoungUIA, but if you wanted to throw in any questions, but I'll just ask one more, and Sam, if you wanted to jump on, you're welcome to do so. A lot of religious kids maybe think, you know, sports is not necessarily appropriate, not necessarily good for them. I played a lot of sports, even in my Jewish, religious, school that I went to, and I find it such an important part of our just our mental health, our physical health. I see actually our cousin he's a sports coach as well. What's your message to kids today who maybe sort of the religious side of things, and how can sports help them?
I would say that, Judaism isn't taking you away from sports. It's not taking you away from any of your dreams. It's just showing you how to live your dreams in a more happy and meaningful way. And I think that sports is just such an amazing thing. You could even learn the Rambam's opinion about it. I think it's in the Hagdama of the Rambam. And he actually, if I understood correctly, he calls it service of Hashem. Because when we feel good about ourselves, then we're a lot less likely to put other people down. When we feel strong and healthy, we could serve Hashem better. We can inspire people around us. We can accomplish more throughout the day. We could not only reach our potential, we could help other people reach their potential as well. And I think that's like a major part of Judaism. And, if we're challenged, if there's a challenge throughout the day, you could overcome it better if like you're feeling good mentally and physically. So I think that that's why I feel very strongly about, working out in sport and having it be completely united with Judaism.
I agree. Well said. Absolutely. Just before we sort of start wrapping things up, I just wanted to let everyone know I've just posted a link in the chat box. This is a small way you can make a donation, and all donations today, 50% of them will go to help the work of the YoungUIA and their special projects that they take on. And Tamir, for me and Sam, I don't know if you wanted to just say a couple of words before, and then I'll just wrap it up once you're finished having a chat to Tamir.
Amir, thank you so much, brother. Thanks for making yourself available. Your schedule sounds absolutely bonkers.
Thank you, and kol hakavod on all of your work.
Yeah, no, appreciate that. No, very, very inspiring, and on a rainy Sunday night in Melbourne, I guess. Yeah, and we've got a curfew at 8:00, so we can't exactly go out and play basketball or go run now. But hopefully, first thing tomorrow morning when the curfew's lifted. And I just wanted Daniel to say thanks for co-hosting with us tonight.
You're welcome.
And we do have a sponsor, Omnicom Constructions, Rodney Efron and Dave Skernick, who build absolutely beautiful homes around the Caulfield area. Thank you so much for sponsoring this evening. It's been great. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, second that. And Tamir, once again, a big thank you to you and to all the work you're doing. I love that you're involved in so many different areas. It's probably keeps things fresh and exciting, from the technology side to sharing your wisdom with the sporting background. And yeah, just keep up the amazing work and inspiring audiences. And I think everybody can just take a leaf out of your page and realize if we stick to things that we're proud of, that we believe in our, never to sort of cower and feel that we can't be proud of our identity. And like you said, when people see that, they're humbled in front of it, So yeah, shukar to you. And yeah, as Sam said, I'm not going to be playing basketball anytime too soon, but it certainly makes me feel like I want to get out and do a bit of sports. That's for sure.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Tamir.
well, thank you all very much. It's so nice to be part of the community. If I could help anyone or if you're coming over here, if we could ever work on anything together, let me know. And everyone should be blessed with Shana Tova Metuka, a good, healthy, sweet new year with only revealed blessings in every single way. And everyone should be able to live out their potential and realize how special they are. Like the rabbi said, we all have to realize how special we are, what our input could be in this world, that no one else has the exact same blessings that we have. And Hashem's counting on us, each and every person, to bring their own unique blessings to this overall puzzle. And God willing, once that puzzle is complete, we'll all be together here in Jerusalem. And I thank you guys, and I wish you only blessing and success.
Amen. Toda lecha. And for those who are interested, tomorrow night we have a trivia night. You can find details on Facebook. Just another way to keep you engaged through lockdown. So Monday night, 8 p.m. For some trivia.